Hi, everyone. We'll just give everyone a few more minutes to trickle in. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. My name is Liz, and I'm the marketing manager for Harvard Business School Online's Credential of Leadership, Impact, and Management in Business program, also known as CLIMB. We're excited to have you here today. We have a packed agenda. We'll start with a quick CLIMB overview with key dates and how to apply. And then we'll jump right into questions with the panelists, including some questions submitted by the audience. I'll leave room at the end to answer additional questions, so please drop any that you have in the chat or on our social media channels, whether for the panelists or about the program. So if we go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about CLIMB. CLIMB is a year-long program. It's designed and led by Harvard Business School faculty, and it consists of 7 courses. 2 are preset long-form courses, and 3 are shorter form courses. And we have a finance elective and an open elective consisting of any course from HBS Online's certificate course library. The program is divided into 2 paths. We have new leaders and experienced leaders. New leaders have 2 or more years of total professional experience, and experienced leaders have 7 or more years of total experience and 4 or more years of managerial experience. These paths allow for a more customized curriculum that really meets you where you are in your career and connects you with peers at a similar career stage. Today, I'm excited that we have a panel of experienced leaders joining us. 2 leaders who recently completed the program and 2 who are currently enrolled. And before we turn to them, I'll quickly share a reminder that the next sessions for both new and experienced leaders begin on April 8th, 2026, and the application deadline is on March 25th. You can find more on our website, online.hbs.edu, and feel free to reach out to climb@hbs.edu with any questions. Now, I'm very excited to introduce our panelists. We'll start with quick introductions, and I'll ask you all to share your name, industry, and role. So, Andrea, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Andrea Diaz. I'm the co-founder and the chief operating officer of ADB Mechanics. It's an automotive company, and that's it.
Great, Ben.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ben Miller, and I kind of 2 things. I run a boutique managerial consulting company, and I run a social venture called Worth Hats, which has a charity around it as well called Worth Foundation.
Thank you. And Catherine?
Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Palacios, and I'm a federal Swiss pharmacist working in regulatory affairs and registration for medicines for FDA, EMA, Swissmedic, and worldwide. And I work as consultant in this pharmaceutical company.
Thank you. And finally, Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan Proctor here. I'm an API engineering manager for Priceline.com, and I primarily work with the B2B product.
Great. Thank you all. We're so excited that you're here. And we'll start with Andrea for our first question. Can you talk to us about what motivated you to enroll in CLIMB and what your initial impressions were?
Wow, my initial impression about Climb, this is demanding, but right away I knew that I was in the place I wanted to be. I was looking for a program like an MBA, but not that rigorous and could be online and allows me to go through my own pace. So Climb stood out because of the case method and the chance to learn alongside experienced leaders from around the world. And the cases and discussions quickly pushed me to analyze my decisions with a broader and more global perspective.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. And next, for those of you who are currently enrolled in CLIMB, what have been your biggest takeaways or aha moments so far? Catherine, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Yes, sure. One of my biggest aha moments was we often think that growth comes from doing more. When we are getting into new roles with more responsibility, we often think we have to do more. And my personal aha moment from this program was sort of realizing that the real progress often comes from stepping back, reflecting, and adjusting the way we think, rather than simply increasing intensity. And maybe the other key insight is how much mindset shapes ultimately the performance. There's these small internal narratives that we carry about leadership and the quiet influence that comes. So, being more aware of those with all these case studies in the CLIMB program has been personally for me both aha moments.
I love that. And Jordan, do you have anything that you'd like to add before we move on to the same question for the completed participants?
Yeah. For me, the aha moment for us travel tech in general, it's fraught with organizational change right now. Technology is evolving so quickly, and having an organizational framework to adhere to that we're learning as we go through the CLIMB program has been immensely helpful. So that's kind of been where I've been sticking and seeing the most value so far.
That's great. Thank you. And for the same question, looking back at the program for those of you who have completed, what are your biggest takeaways? Ben, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. My biggest takeaway, so in my world, I have a few things, but in the managerial kind of consulting world, there's just so much, there's a ton of valuable information and models and kind of resources that I'm able to draw upon in certain scenarios. So, I think it's really important after the fact, like I kind of continue to go back and review certain material and look at certain material because it is a lot, but I find that I'm able to kind of just draw and bring things into the moment based on from the learnings from the CLIMB program and the experience. And so there's just certain situations where I will be able to like go back in and look at a specific resource to then bring to the team the next day and apply and work through. So I'd say overall, that's been my biggest takeaway. Like there's just a vast amount of knowledge and information that I'm then able to apply to different situations as they come up.
Mm-hmm. Andrea?
Yeah, I think that the possibility to apply right away what we have learned in the platform, in the client, and the opportunity to apply on my own company, it's like, I don't know, I think it's my biggest takeaway. I remember certain models that has a huge impact to me. But yeah, I can think on this possibility to apply right away the knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Love to hear that. And one of the biggest things that we hear from our learners is how much they appreciated the cohort experience and the opportunity to collaborate with their peers. How have you connected with other CLIMB learners, and how has that enhanced your experiences? Jordan?
Yeah, this has been one of the most transformational parts for me. So for the cohort, it empowered me and I guess like the whole group to investigate and work with more of a diversity in thought rather than like in a workplace, you all typically have the same goal, similar mindsets, and having a diverse range of skill sets and experience levels. It really taught us to engage and almost create a larger surface area when you approach problems so you can see things a bit clearer when you have that dynamic interaction. So the cohort, is one of the most key parts for me.
That's great. And similarly, Ben, you attended Connect, our annual conference where current and past participants engage in networking, community building, knowledge sharing. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience was like there?
Yeah, I was on the fence originally whether I was going to do it or not, just because it was sandwiched right between two bigger commitments. And I went for it, even though I could only go for, I was there for 2 nights in Boston, and I was incredibly happy I did overall. Like I honestly, it was pretty memorable experience. And I think, online is amazing, and, the relationships you can build in the online space, but, there is just an impact when you're in person and can actually have some of the little conversations and have, lunch or dinner with people. It makes a big difference. And, there's a variety of relationships I've made from that weekend and that I've, stayed connected with. And yeah, if you have a chance, I definitely encourage people to go to Connects, because it is worth it. I don't think they'll regret it.
Thank you. That's great. And a question for the Climb completers, and we'll start with Andrea. Just how has the program impacted your career?
Oh, well, Climb has had a significant impact on how I approach leadership and decision making. The frameworks and insights I gained have helped me to think more strategically, communicate more clearly with my teams, and be more deliberate about the way I prioritize and drive initiatives forward. It also strengthened my confidence as a leader and allowed me to expand my international network in a meaningful way. Even at Connect, I attended Connect last year as well. And connecting peers from different countries and industries has opened up new perspectives and opportunities to collaborate and keep learning beyond the program itself.
That's great to hear. Ben, do you have anything to add as a completed learner?
Just similar to my original response. It just is, there's a wealth of knowledge and information that I can draw upon in different scenarios and situations, and then bring into certain contexts that has been incredibly valuable.
And starting with Jordan, as a current learner, how do you hope that it will impact your career, or how has it so far?
Yeah. So every learner is different. For me, I need practice. So as I go through these modules and I gain this experience through the case studies and everything provided, it's completely refactored my philosophy when making impactful business decisions, where I would focus on what my team can contribute to an organizational goal. I now look at where I can also influence and impact. An example would be, for all the software engineering folks out there, I know that's a big topic right now. When you work on something and you feel you are dependent on another team, I found a lot of value in this is knowing that you can have valuable influence on other teams to coordinate and collaborate. And Climb has been providing a lot of frameworks to accomplish that without and dissolve a lot of the friction that you experience in a lot of these business dynamics across teams. So it's been great.
That's great. Catherine, anything you'd like to add there? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yes, I just wanted to, again, highlight what Jordan and Ben mentioned, that it has opened ways to think and influence also not only your team, but also within the context of the other organizations, and how to step back and think, what will you do as a leader in these moments? And this has sort of been very impactful, because with the whole dynamic of the groups living also in different countries, you also learn how people think differently. And this has been, for me, one of a very strong key takeaways and successes for this Climb program personally.
That's so great to hear. And one thing that Jordan mentioned is the case study method. Like all of our HBS online courses, Climb is taught using the case study method, in which learners reflect on real-world situations faced by business leaders. Can you talk about how the case study method affected your learning, and if there are any examples that stood out as particularly impactful?
Shall I go ahead, or?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes. So particularly, this is very interesting, because as a regulatory affairs professional, you're taught to think in guidelines and structures, and that there is maybe one correct path. Now, this case study method, this totally shifts your framework by having real experience directly delivered by executives and CEOs on instead of stepping back, and it brilliantly shifts from the moment of what does the regulation say, and instead it's what would you decide as a leader in this moment. And this personal shift for me has been also very, very helpful. This is also the case study method reinforces this, this framework, which is quite powerful because it's real world cases.
That's great. I don't know if anybody else has any, anything that you want to share about the case study method. I love hearing the way that it's so different in different industries, and that's so great to hear.
Yeah, I have found it exactly what you just touched on. But once I went through 4 or 5 case studies with the program, you start seeing case studies everywhere in your way of working. So it kind of transcended it, and it transfers immediately to the workplace. And for those that might be students that are looking at this webinar, I'd say that it's really valuable because even without a significant amount of working experience, you can start looking at real world situations and applying your method of thought that you've gotten from outcomes in this program. So you start seeing them everywhere. Yeah.
I love that. And Ben, what advice do you have for future climb learners? I think particularly as an experienced leader for somebody who might be wondering how to balance climb with a challenging career.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning for me, and which I kind of knew, I wish I knew before, was just, yeah, for me, it was if I tried to like wait till the end of the week or try to put aside a bunch of hours, I would get behind. It just wouldn't work. So for me, what really worked was like if I have an hour here, I'm going to schedule hour here, 30 minutes here, 20 minutes here. Like I would pick away during the week, and it would just made everything far less stressful and actually sustainable for me because I don't think it would be sustainable otherwise if I was just trying to leave it till the last day or last 2 days. So how do you break it up throughout the week? Because then it also turns it from being enjoyable to not that enjoyable. When you're trying to just cram to get something done, it ends up being not the most enjoyable versus if okay, hour here, 2 hours here, 30 minutes here, then you can kind of get into the material more and actually engage with the material in a more interactive, fun way. And so that's what I would recommend is like just not to schedule it kind of throughout the week at different points. It was what worked for me.
That's great advice. And Jordan, as somebody who's in it now, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. It, just like Ben said, there's a high volume of work and there's an expectation that you engage with the material. I learned over my first few already that I don't necessarily optimize for perfect answers when you do enroll. I find optimizing for my learning velocity and making sure that I transfer it to the workplace as often as I can. I think evolution as a leader isn't a switch you flip at the end of the program. You kind of have to begin at the beginning and start practicing what you learn so you have gradual progression and it's not some sudden thing that comes upon you at the end. So I make sure to make a point of that. Yeah.
That's great. I think that's something that seems like it's been a theme today, and that we hear from a lot of different people who participate, is just those kind of immediately applicable learnings and wins, which is so great to hear. Um, Great. I have a couple of questions that were submitted by the audience in advance, and if anyone who is watching now has any questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A as well. We have a question from Le Bogang, who asked, what has been your best acquired knowledge from climb, and how are you using it in your career? And we'll start off with Ben again.
So like kind of goes on the theme that I was, you know, talking about. So, for example, even looking at like a model of like the ladder of inference and like the dueling ladders of inference. And like those are, that's a model that I can then, I can take into a variety of different conversations around problem solving, around conflict management. And so, you know, it, I would say for me, because of the work I do in the management development space, like there are so many different models that I can apply directly to the work and I can bring up of just, affective versus cognitive conflict and psychological safety. Like there's all sorts of different topics that I incorporate into my week to week. And so for me, it's similar to the response I've given before. Like you have a ton of information to draw upon that I can then apply to certain situations, but also I keep up on like relearning the material in terms of I spend each morning, or it's 30 minutes I spend each morning just to kind of like go back through certain material and like brush up on it. Because as Jordan said, it takes practice. All of this it takes practice and kind of continuing that learning even after where you're engaging with the material and can kind of see where it can be applied to in certain situations.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Catherine?
Yes, so touching base also what Ben mentioned for me, very specifically in dynamic teaming, the second semester, there was a module where there were the same interferential conflicts or how to strategic pathways on how to gain decision making, which were very striking for me and very helpful. And it's like Ben already mentioned, actually what Climb does with all these modules is you have a myriad of information and you slowly but surely start to process it. It's an internal process. And you pick on certain cases as you go and as you are in your workplace. And so dynamic teaming in the second semester, wow. There was a module where you completely were able to apply very concrete tools on how to get a decision more efficiently made. So that one was, for me, one of the best acquired knowledges actually in the Climb program so far.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And we have another question from Sunatha. For those already in leadership roles, which specific module provided a light bulb moment that you hadn't encountered? Jordan, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so I'll loop back. I'm part of a very big organization with Priceline, and the light bulb moment for me is being able to, I guess the module would be organizational leadership, and being able to drive feedback loops that generate meaningful business value. Before, once again, I was at the context where I'm just focusing on what my team can get done, meeting deadlines, building features. And with organizational leadership, you start seeing the adjacent or peripheral business behaviors or processes that either have value or maybe could use optimization, or maybe you have to rethink them and refactor them. So the light bulb moment for me was being able to immediately start identifying those, where before I lacked that framework. I just saw them, but I didn't necessarily know if they were adequate, if they did provide value. So for those in bigger organizations like me, I think you can start applying this, and the light bulb moment is truly being able to act with a greater impact within your organization, rather than just what you might have previously felt like there's a glass ceiling or there were barriers in building business value as part of your org.
That's so great. Andrea, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the personal branding course was definitely my light bulb moment. It was deeply introspective and pushed me to reflect on who I am as a leader and as a woman in business. It helped me to understand not just how I see myself, but how I am perceived in my work environment, which was truly eye-opening. And also one elective, the financial accounting model. I elect the financial accounting. It was incredibly detailed and enriching. It gave me the tools to better understand the financial side of our business in a way I haven't before. Both of these experiences have shaped how I lead and make decisions today in a financial way, and in a way that I sell myself. And I think it was so enriching.
That's great. Thank you. We have some really great questions coming in from the audience as well. So I will put these out for whoever wants to chime in and answer here. From Brittany, how has climb impacted your confidence as a leader?
I'll take it. Once again, when you have that framework, you start to know where you can act meaningfully within it. So you're not going to be, you don't gain all the confidence in an organization or a business overnight, especially with like a startup or something, which I don't have that experience. But where you get the confidence is when there's a framework and you start acting and being aware of where you lie within that framework. You provide yourself more solid context when you do take action and when you do provide value. So yeah, for me, it's confidence is interacting within that framework. That's what matters.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Ben?
Yeah, I can. So I think too, there's a level of confidence, at least for me, one of the reasons why I signed up where, there's the reputation of HBS and to know that like, oh, it's like, okay, I'm being presented like the best of the best information, and having that knowledge then to apply it. Like there's no, for me, it gave a confidence in not second guessing kind of the models or material I'm using. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I found that to be quite valuable.
That's great. Another question from the chat. How have you maintained connections with your cohort after the program ended? Or I guess for those of you who are in it, even, how are you maintaining connections outside of your courses?
I think
Yeah,
I can.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, just to mention, part of the program, you get to meet wonderful people internationally. And we were just mentioning, for example, Andrea and me, we have also connected in LinkedIn, but also we have kept with some friends via WhatsApp. They have become also our guidance in thought processes. And so it has been really enriching experience in terms of actually getting to know a lot of very, very memorable people on your way and your path who are having the same questions, same doubts, and stand also in the same sort of bubble and area you're in. And so that's how we keep in contact a lot still.
It's great.
Yeah, I think the same. I felt really supported by two peers in my cohort. I found myself a little bit concerned in a model, and I really found support with two peers. And even in Connect, I have met two, or I don't remember, like two or four people at Connect. And actually, we have maintained this contact. Now I have a really good friend in Romania. I have a good friend in New York, and it's people that you don't think that you will know.
That's great to hear. I love that. And here's another question from the chat. What is one thing you wish you had known before the first week of the program?
Just what I had already said, it's a fair bit if, to all of a sudden it's like the first week's done and it's on to the second week and you maybe missed a deadline and you're just like, you're scrambling a little bit and just to get started kind of right away, like just actually get into the material right away, get started and start putting those hours in, 30 minutes and whatever it may be. But because I think people get over it starts and then I don't know, people maybe think they have more time than they do. And just start right away and get into the material. I think that would have been helpful. I know I got a little overwhelmed about week two, realizing that I'm behind but not, I wasn't aware. And so, that would be my advice. Just start picking away at it right away.
And maybe I just add to what Ben said. I fully agree. Start early, but also the realization that some modules may take you more time than others. And it's important, therefore, just as Ben mentioned, don't wait till a Friday, start day by day, because you will find some modules easier than others. Some are having more assignments. Off my hat, I can think organizational leadership is one of those where you have a lot of also extra assignments to be completed. So just take that into account.
And keeping up the communication with your cohort, I think that everyone has something incredible to share. We are from too many countries and too many industries. So I think this is a very good advice.
And I'll just to add to that too. I think don't get down on yourself. I think it's at times like you're not keeping up as well as you'd like, and you're not engaging as much as you'd like, and that's okay. Just, I think it's easy to also start to be like, oh, I should be interacting more, engaging more, and it's like, yes, and that some weeks it's just you're just trying to get through it a bit more, or you're super busy, and so just to have compassion for yourself as you work through those weeks, and not every week you're going to be at your best.
Yeah, it's so important to remember that it's a year-long program. There's a lot of weeks in there. And this is an interesting question. So we haven't talked too much about the electives, but this person is looking for electives that were popular or maybe that you found useful for those transitioning from management into more senior executives or digital transformation roles. I'm not sure if any of you, if that kind of applies or if anybody would like to speak to that. Catherine?
Yes, so there's one particular elective that I took, AI in business. And this is very timely. There were some very, very good takeaways. And I think this is also what makes the program more robust, sort of that you really do have current current problem solving. So one of the modules definitely for sure to be looked at in this case is really AI and business. Plus, I am assuming that there's more AI modules that will be integrated probably in the future as well with the electives, but that would be definitely one.
Thank you. And another question from Mohammed. Can you share an example of a framework from the program that you were able to implement immediately?
I could touch on that. It's a bit of an echo of Ben's, but in software development, the framework and the idea of psychological safety, very important. You get your best work out of people that feel confident in taking risks and understanding the context in the work they're trying to get done. When you're building something net new, or you're designing something that maybe you don't have a lot of context and you're acting in the unknowns, the framework of providing the safety to that team and teaching them to how to adequately communicate and not withhold certain blockers or inadequacies, but surfacing them. The framework that you get out of psychological safety specifically, like it's a defined mod as part of a module in this Climb course, it's very clear. I won't break it down right now, but it was one of the biggest wins. Like it really hit a punch on how to frame it out and allow your team to realize all of their potential, rather than the quieter person that might work with you, that might be reserved but have really good insight or at least diverse perspectives. So that framework, immediate wins, especially in software development.
That's great. And we had a question come in for Ben. As a consultant, how has Climb impacted your proactivity as a leader?
My proactivity. So I think, as I mentioned, I spend roughly 30 minutes each morning kind of going through. So after every after every course, you'll have a summary of each of the courses. And so I printed out those summaries just because I think it just helps me to kind of have it in the physical copy. So I printed out those, and I spend time reviewing them and looking at each of them. Well, again, 30 minutes, and I allocate it for different courses or for review. And so I spend that time, and then it kind of feeds back into what's coming up for the week ahead. And there's just different things like, oh yeah, this triggers this and this triggers this, and it's like, oh, interesting, what about this model? So I find for me, you like finishing up is a ton of information. If you don't kind of incorporate it back into your day to day or week to week, you'll start to lose it. And so how do you just, even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, how do you kind of bring that material back into your day to day or week to week?
Thank you. And we have a question from Brittany for Catherine. Catherine, how has Climb impacted your networking skills, especially since working with international teams and policies?
So this has drastically changed also the way you view certain things, as mentioned also by Ben and Jordan. There is a certain framework that you tend to establish with the psychological safety, but all these tools that are happening. And it has helped and shaped the international thought process, because you're also discussing these topics with several people, several countries, several internationalities, and several different industries. So all of these factors really help and sharpen your internationality view on certain topics and different ways of thinking.
That's great. And we have another specific one for Andrea. How has Climb changed your perspective on team leading and rapport as a leader?
I was silenced. Wow. I think that it helped me out to, above all, to know how I am perceived, because I'm a woman in an industry led principally by men, and it's a little bit difficult sometimes. So this program has gave me the confidence to express myself, to to make meetings, to how I approach with my teams, because I have too many teams, and everyone in these teams are engineers, and that's me. And I'm a woman in a financial world, but I think that this perspective about having the tools with to apply with confidence, it helped me a lot in this industry.
That's so great. And we have another specific one for Jordan this time. How has Climb impacted your risk tolerance and confidence in building and creating something new?
That's a good one. That's multifaceted. So I act in a hierarchy. So you have VPs, you have directors, you have managers, and you have different degrees of risk tolerance based on an organizational goal, or maybe a more granular engineering task, like a ticket. So with risk tolerance, when you get an accountability model and you're able to delegate that risk, as long as you're providing, once again, the context and the ability to act with confidence with your team, whether you're upskilling them or giving them the resources they need, you're able to more dynamically assess the risk tolerance on the fly within the org, up and down. So I'd say we have better alignment, and there's less inter-team friction. So you're able to act a lot more autonomously without having a disconnect. So I'd say that's where it's had the biggest impact.
Thank you. That's great. And I think before we move on to our last question, I will give our panelists a break. We have a question that I can answer, which is what empirical evidence do you have that climb materially changes promotion, velocity, compensation, or external mobility? So we had an external company do a survey of past participants about how the courses they took impacted their lives and careers. If you go onto the HBS online website, you can see more of the outcomes from that survey. And specifically for Climb, if you download our brochure, which you can find on the online.hbs.edu/courses/climb, which we can drop in the chat as well. You can see some of the findings from what our past Climb participants told us. It's been really positive and we hear really great things. And I know we're almost at time, so I have a final fun question for all our panelists before we sign off. How would you describe Climb in one word? Catherine, would you like to start?
Yes, one word, transformative. Should I elaborate?
Tough one
No, you're
word.
good.
Enriching.
I think it would be challenging.
All right, I'm going left field. My word's support, but I have to elaborate. I invoked one of the things that's suggested with Climb is that you reach out and you talk to your employer. So mine was very graciously able to support me in this. So without a support structure of like my family at home, work accommodating what I need for school and getting this done, I'm able to adequately prioritize this. This takes something, and typically you have to mitigate or shift things around in your life to achieve what's required of the Climb program. So support is, different, but that's my word.
That's a great word. And these were all fantastic words. And it's been so insightful speaking to you all. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for everyone who attended today. Once again, we'll share our screen with the key dates, and we hope to see some of you in the next session of Climb. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.